Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a good wherever you are. My name is JP. Welcome to Websites for Beginners, and we're having a look at the new module, Element, released by Themify for their WordPress builder, and that is the table module in which you can build super tables, and they are responsive too. Let's dive right into that. I'm going into the Themify Builder so we can have a quick look at what it is, and then I'll give you a little bit of additional information. Add a new row here, and I'll just click on this one and bring it in. We can work with a full row and then click on to bring a new module, and then in the search box, we just search for table. As modules get more and more and elements get overcrowded, it's very difficult to find them there where they are in the panel. The easiest way is just to go to the search and then look for table, click on the plus, add module. When it comes in, this is how it looks by default, and I think the first thing I want to do is point you over to the panel on the left where we have a module title. If you want to add a title to it, then import a CSV, table header, and freeze head and column. The first one will be upload CSV. I'll select it and I'll grab a CSV that I generated within Microsoft Excel, and look at this beautiful table that comes in when I select open. It will ask me, do I want to overwrite the table data with the CSV file? If you already have data within the table, then it will override this. Of course, you're going to say, okay, otherwise, no point. And this is a monthly statement thing that I work on, so just my own stuff here. What you can see already is that there is too much information here for the table to work with, so it adds a slider here at the bottom, and that's how it will display on the front end. You can go ahead and change the width of the columns here. But in a case like this where you have so many columns like I have here, you're always going to have the slider. And that is going to be the same case when you go to something like tablet portrait. You see the slider at the bottom, and the same for mobile device as well. And that is a natural and a good behavior when you have a table. That's why we usually try to avoid tables. But I've worked with plenty of companies that often want to put financial data or some kind of data on their website. Then a table is quite nifty and handy. One thing I want to point out here is when you scroll horizontally, you will see that the column on the left stays here in an overlap with a little bit of blur. That is really helpful to still give you that reference as to what the row is about. We go back to our desktop view and have a look at the rest. The first thing I want to point out is the danger of this button here. I think it's something that can be improved. Table header, do you want it or not? And this you have to decide before you start with anything on the page, before you bring in any data, because currently, if I disable it, look at what happens to my column titles at the top. I'll disable, and actually it wiped out all my data, and I've run into this a few times. Let's go ahead and upload it one more time, which is very easy, upload it. And if you are working from a CSV table, this is going to be okay. But if you styled everything from scratch and you disable the table header and it disappears, you're not going to get it back. Not even an undo will help you with that. So remember that option for the table header, very important. If you have large table data that runs down and down and down on your page, you will go for this option, freeze head column, which is on by default. And there you go. Let's just add a table module. We call it my table so that you can see. And once again, it disappears. This is a pity. These are little snags that Themify definitely have to work on to make sure that we do not get angry and very frustrated when this happens. Good. Now that we've done all of this, you know how it works. Make sure you set your module title and choose whether you want your table header from the very beginning. Let's talk about bringing in your data manually. I'll bring in another table from here. Let's bring in another row. And in our row, I'm going to look for another table element. Select my table and drop it in. It brings in two columns. I found a lot of bugs here as well. And I would recommend that if you're going to be working with the column, my advice at this moment is that you do it in Excel, save it as a CSV, and bring it in. So in case you screw it up here, you can just import it again. Otherwise, at this moment, you're going to find that sometimes you put in all your data, you make one small change and the data disappears. How this table works is really cool. For the columns, you go to the top right corner in any of the columns and add a new column. The only problem I have here is that I cannot really access the one on the right as this label overshadows it. So I can only add new ones by going to those columns on the left and the middle. Same thing if you want to delete, you go to the left. And this time you just click here on the delete option and it will delete the column. What I find though, as you can see, it doesn't delete the column. It actually just deletes the contents of the column. And that is one of the reasons why I recommend that you probably go with the CSV option. Pretty sure that this is something that Themify will fix. Adding content to the columns is easy. Click in a cell, use tab to go to the next one. This is really nice. And I'll just, is it already there? Yeah. Add some text here. And you have the undo and redo options over here. Strange little function. Or is this a move function? Not sure what this one does. Look though, every time I click on any of these cells, my content disappears. So again, that's why I will keep coming back. I would say do not use this on a manual basis. If it's small data, go ahead, do it. But if you bring in loads of data, definitely go to CSV. Same thing for the row. To add another row, same concept, just click outside to make sure you do not select any of the cells within the table. Hop on over to the left and you have the same two functions here. Add a new row. And again, my data disappears and delete a row. At least the delete works well. The add row has that notion of also removing our data. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bugs in this one, but I can make it work perfectly if I bring in my CSV table. Let's do that one more time and have a quick look at what happens when we are styling it out. I'll select the table by clicking on it, go to Upload CSV, and then bring in my table and talk about the styling. Once you've selected it and we start styling, this is going to confuse you a little bit if you don't often work with this within Themify. Hop on over to Styling and go to Background. Select background color and have a look at what happens here. I'll put it on green and everything is green. Definitely not what we want. I'll clear that out. This little label here at the top with the hamburger menu that says General. Always when you see that, remember there are more options in there. Select it and you see you have table, table head, table cell, freeze head, and freeze column. We're just going to work with the table head here and then you'll fully understand what we are doing. Open the background. Let's choose a color here. And we'll go for pink. And now you see we have this nice pink going on here, dark pink for the top. And then we can go back under table head to the table area and we can choose for the background, again that pink, but what we will do is we will reduce the opacity. And now it starts to look like how we are used to tables. Very nicely done. Let's save this and have a quick look on the front end whether it actually works properly on responsive devices. I will close this so we can get back to the front end and activate Pixify. And we can see our table already comes in there. And as expected, our scroll bar appears here at the bottom. We can click and drag. Works very nicely. The perfect way for bringing a table onto your website and making sure it's responsive. This is a great first step. And as long as you are sticking to CSV with minimal styling and changes once you've brought it in, this is going to work perfectly at the moment out of the box. If you want to go manual, you're going to run into serious issues with the bugs currently present within the table module. But kudos to Themify for making sure we get updates regularly, cool updates. Give these guys a look. And remember, one of the reasons always to consider Themify is their lifetime club deal, especially when it's during discount season. Then you usually get like $50 off. Lifetime access, unlimited websites, one-time payment of $250. You can't go wrong, especially if you are interested in creating many websites for your friends, family, and maybe start a small business. This is the one to consider. From me, Jay, I'll see you in the next video.